Where do you stand on festive mugs out with the festivity it's promoting?
I regularly use my gonk mugs. So...
I think so. I think there should be a safe space that we can embrace our Christmas mugs, our Halloween mugs, out with the seasons of Christmas and Halloween, and just say, you know what? I love this mug. I love this season, regardless of what time of year it is. And I'm celebrating, and I'm repping it today.
I am sorely tempted to put my Christmas tree up.
Well, I can't agree with that, Jamie. That's just ridiculous. For God's sake.
I actually thought about it the other day. I thought about putting it up, but hanging Funkos and shit from it, and just having it in the corner of the room. It's like, yeah, fuck it, might as well.
Oh man, that would be awesome. Do Funkos do like an advent calendar or Christmas decorations like baubles? Because that would be surely they must do, because that would be genius.
They do an advent. They do several advent calendars each year, which have got the mystery minis in. So they're they're like £60, but you get like 24 of the minis, so it's actually really good.
Wow. That is really good.
They also do. They did a brilliant range last year, which I didn't get any of, but I'm going to try and pick them up this year, of Marvel characters, but as like Christmas cookies. So there's a little gingerbread Thanos, a little gingerbread Captain America, and all that. Fucking awesome.
That's cool. That's cool. One year actually, going back a few now. Jess used to give me seasonal cupcakes to take into the office, and one year I asked if you could do Avengers style cupcakes. Like the cupcake toppers, it really was the design of the cupcake toppers were like Iron Man, the Hulk's kind of fist, Thor's hammer, Captain America's shield as the cupcake toppers, and I thought, God damn, I love being married to a baker. It's so cool because you could do all of this stuff for me at a whim.
Speaking of Funko, I wonder if I can get him to sit there.
You'd have to be very still if that little Funko, maybe on your head would work. Actually, get a Velcro strip and just get him to the forehead. It'd be fine.
Tempting. My Pride Batman Funko.
That's really cool. How come it's like all multicolored and
they released a bunch of them for Pride each year.
Oh, is that what it's for? That's really cool.
Yeah, money goes to like Pride charities. I've got a bunch of I've got a whole selection of little Batmen.
Yeah.
But my favourite one is from Q-Figs. And it's this little guy. It's Batman 66.
That's brilliant. Robin sucks.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, there used to be a Twitter feed called The Goddamn Batman. The
Goddamn Batman, okay.
It's gone now, but it was this guy tweeting as Batman, but he always put stuff up like, he said, was it caught up with the Riddler? Riddle me this, dumbass. What can't fall 5 stories without breaking both legs and shattering its hips? You. And it was just stuff like that. But my favourite one was he would put up, another Robin died today? It's just, and every now and again, it would just always be, another Robin died today. I told him to wear the shark repellent. He wouldn't wear the shark repellent.
That's pretty funny. I like that. You could just write your own little things to taunt and heckle the Dark Knight.
It's one of my favourite Twitter feeds ever. My favourite one is Grumpy Skeletor, though.
Grumpy Skeletor's a Twitter feed? What?
Have you not seen? Oh, it's so good. He tweets little screenshots from the old animated series, but it'll be stuff like, there was one the other day that was Beastman. It just said, "Look at this fuzzy bell end," and that was it. It's just he's just really angry at everyone in Eternia. It's fucking brilliant.
That's pretty funny. I'm gonna have to subscribe and just turn on notifications for all tweets for Grumpy Skeletor.
It's the shit. It really is.
Who knew the Twitterverse could bring such joy, Jamie?
I miss the days when we had stuff like, I miss the Inigo Montoya bot. That was my favourite. You would, if you tweeted anything, like if you tweeted inconceivable, it would respond. You didn't have to tweet at it; it just trolled Twitter. And if you tweeted the word inconceivable, you would get a response saying, "You keep using this word. I do not think it means what you think it means."
That's
and every now and again, it would tweet people and just say, "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." It was amazing.
nods to The Princess Bride, of course, the classic. If any of our viewers and listeners are completely lost by the ramblings of Jamie. He is the king of the tangent, after all, Jamie. And this is episode 74 of the Weekend Catch-Up Club podcast. Of course, the Coffee Morning Gaming Show, brought to you every week where two friends hang out and chat about some of the latest stories and goings-on in the industry. You can follow the show on a number of platforms or watch the video version over on YouTube. Your support is hugely important to us, so please keep subscribing to never miss an episode. We are on 75 episodes down, Jamie. That's wild, right? That is so wild.
3/4 of a century we've been doing this.
Wow.
Well, you've been doing it.
We're properly into pensioner territory in terms of our podcast. The show has its bus pass and it's been riding the buses for free for the past little while.
It's the only reason I allow myself to continue to look this old. It's just to maintain the bit, you know. Otherwise, I'm quite youthful.
Do you think when we get to like episode 100, and we will get to episode 100, we'll get a letter from the Queen for our show hitting 100?
I mean,
centenary.
We can but ask. We can always email her.
We should put a petition together for HRH, I guess press office, PR office or something like that, at Buckingham Way, down in London somewhere.
I can confirm Buckingham Palace has an official email address. I know this because I've contacted them before.
Have you sent an irate email or two to them?
No,
by any chance?
No. I very polite. I was organising a charity event, or I was part of a charity event, and I had been tasked with getting as many raffle and auction prizes as possible.
Okay.
And so I had spent, basically I was sat up until like 3-4 in the morning, and I was just blasting every company, brand, anything that I could think of that might support the event. This was back when I was living in Somerset. It was at my family's stables, and it was this big gala day they used to hold. And so I'd reached out to loads of like horse-related companies that I started moving further afield because there was a big party in the evening. So I got to the point where I was a little bit sleep-deprived and I got bored. So I started emailing really random people. So I emailed Fabergé to see if they had a spare egg. They did not respond.
Okay.
But I emailed Buckingham Palace and asked if they had a corgi that I could give away at a charity event. Because I thought, there's a lot of them running about and they're only little. That's true.
I
got a very nice response from whoever works in that office saying, good luck with your charity endeavours. We're very glad that you've reached out to us. Unfortunately, Her Majesty is rather attached to the dogs. And I thought, do you know what? I don't know who picked that up and replied to it, but sterling work.
I love it when, whether it is like community managers on social or somebody running a press office can have a sense of humour and realizes the value of doing a response which isn't just a stuffy automated statement response, but they actually do a little bit of personality banter back and forward. I think it just is one of those things which is worth more doing it than like ignoring the crazy requests like yourself for one of the Queen's little doggos.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's fun. And I think it must be nice to get that across your desk now and again. Because it was a very polite email. And it was clearly I didn't expect them to post me a dog. So I thought, hopefully they'll take this in the vein it was intended. And they did. So
thankfully they did. They didn't call MI5 on you to track your every move because you came across as a psychopath or something.
I am being tracked and do come across as a psycho, but that's for an entirely different, altogether darker set of events.
That's true. The Dark Knight is probably keeping tabs on you because that is the theme of our show, Jamie. The Dark Knights. Yay! Segues.
So
you got a lot of good segue. So here we are. Okay, Gotham Knights is the next big one that's coming out in, I believe it's October 25th. We haven't had a Batman game for 7 years.
Jeez,
7 years. 2015 Arkham Knight came out. That was the last one from Rocksteady, okay? And I was thinking about this the other night. It's like we have had the entire Batfleck run of movies in the DCU in that time. And we've now got the new Batman and Robert Pattinson with the Batman, which just came out in cinemas and everything. And if you're like me, home premiere for the win. So we've had 7 years of different iterations of the Batman and the cinematic kind of representation of the character, but nothing in games for that length of time. That's crazy to me. That's really, really long time. No like remasters or ports or anything like that, which I was probably expecting. Although, actually, maybe the return to Arkham was a bit of a port package that did come out within that time. So that that came out, but like no new games or anything like that. We know that Rocksteady have moved on from Batman. They're doing Kill the Justice League Suicide Squad game, which does look pretty friggin' fantastic.
Yeah,
but I'm really, really happy that as duties have gone back to, I believe it's Warner Brothers Montreal or something like that. The ones that did like the Shadow of Mordor games and the Arkham Origins game, which was a kind of spin-off title that wasn't that terribly well received, even though I thought it was really good. Didn't have Kevin Conroy or Mark Hamill as Joker. It was some other actors that did a very, very amicable job. But you know, it's not Kevin Conroy, it's not Mark Hamill as Batman and Joker. So exactly. So anyway, they're taking the reins on Gotham Knights, which is the new one, and I'm super stoked for this and excited for this because we're returning to Gotham City. It's obviously like improvements and bells and whistles to the game engine. It can only look better than Arkham Knight, which already looked like a phenomenal game and still holds up incredibly well. But this one, Batman's dead. Spoiler alert, Batman's dead in this one. It starts off with the whole premise that he is no longer there. Whether that's just it's clickbait or we're getting catfished or something like that, and he is going to appear. I don't know, but it is a deeply exciting story arc from the comic books that is the Court of Owls, and you get to play as one of the 4 sidekicks, I guess, in Jason Todd, aka Red Hood, Dick Grayson, Nightwing, Robin, and I can't remember the actual character name of Robin, so I'm probably going to get hauled across the coast for that, and Batgirl. So that's your Drake, 4. I think is it Drake? I think it might be. So potentially they've alluded to that it's going to be co-op, but only 2-player co-op. But there's also mumblings and rumors that it's actually going to be a 4-player co-op, which would kind of make sense if you've got the 4 heroes that you can choose from. But then I don't know if 4-player co-op is going to be a bit crazy for that game. Like two players I can see working, especially if you think going back to Arkham Knight, where you could do like the team takedowns, but it was AI controlled. And I think that kind of thing, but manually controlled with another player, with your friend, could be really cool. And maybe a bit chaotic with 4 players all kind of trying to do that stuff at the same time, a bit messy possibly. But I'm going to bring up the recent gameplay trailer just now, and we're going to watch it. We're going to chat through it. And let's get it going. And we're just gonna talk about our thoughts of like what this game has to offer. Jamie, what do you think? Over to you.
It looks fantastic. It's beautiful looking. And I love the idea of playing as the Bat family as opposed to Batman. When I first read the premise that, you know, Batman's dead because Wayne Manor collapses on him and he's crushed. I was like, okay, there's got to be a story there. There's got to be something happening. It's either that or he is just really... But then how much maintenance could he reasonably keep an eye on when he's out patrolling the city at night and trying to be a billionaire playboy philanthropist during the... But anyway, the whole Batman universe and the mythos, and like he's got the best rogues gallery of any superhero character ever. Like undoubtedly, much as I'm more Marvel than I am DC, but if we could have Batman in Marvel, I probably wouldn't need DC anymore. I'd probably set it aside for mostly. But Nightwing is such an amazing character and such an amazing story of how he moved away from Batman, actually resented him for a time, and then Red Hood, who's Batman with guns, the more violent, more more vigilante, really torture type. Batgirl, awesome character. Barbara Gordon's entire arc and the transition to Oracle and things like that is amazing.
Yeah.
And Tim Drake, the new young Robin. Like you've got really, really good characters there. And obviously, they're all trained by Batman, and they can kick some serious ass, which you can see in the trailer. Like some of the combat, it looks very Arkham Asylum.
It does.
It's got that whole flow to it, which I still maintain one of my favourite combat systems in games is the Arkham series, because it just feels amazing.
Yeah, it feels chunky, and you feel like Batman taking down like 1 versus 100 is the kind of the training ethos, right? It can just constantly free flowing between dodging, countering, flipping over, using gadgets. It's really interesting that because Jason Todd, obviously, like Under the Red Hood is by far one of my favorite animated films, probably of all time. It's outstanding, and because of the story of what happens to Jason Todd, and that's kind of hinted at and played with a lot within Arkham Knight. So players of that game will kind of understand the Jason Todd story arc, and now we actually get to play as the Red Hood. But what's interesting is like he's using firearms, and it says in the trailer that we're kind of watching here for the benefit of audio listeners only, that he's using non-lethal rounds, so like rubber bullets, I would imagine. But they could probably kill quite effectively anyway, because they're going to hurt. But it does look like we've never had a fully ranged player before, like a move set before. So I'm really curious as to how that's going to feel. Is it going to feel like Star-Lord in the recent Guardians of the Galaxy games, where you feel really underpowered, but in that game that's intentional? As in, you're not the one that's supposed to be dealing all of the damage. You're supposed to be calling in your AI companions to do all the special moves and do all the takedowns and stuff. Whereas this one, you are the main kind of protagonist as Red Hood if you choose to go that character. So does firing these guns feel satisfying as opposed to like punching the living daylights out of somebody as one of the other characters feels incredibly satisfying? So that's a dynamic I'm not sure about just yet, but I still really, really want to play as Red Hood because it just looks something different and new for the Arkham, Batman, kind of Warner Brothers era of video games. Yeah,
I mean, looking at it here, it does... Do you know what it reminds me of? The Gun Carter in Equilibrium.
Great movie.
Underrated movie. Yeah. Like an underrated fighting style. The Gun Carter is really interesting and cool. The notion of being trained to the point that you can anticipate, which again, it makes sense for someone like, he was Robin before he was Red Hood. He was trained by Batman. The idea of using, your analytical abilities and your spatial awareness and your sense of self and all of this to anticipate where your enemies are going to be, so that you're always in the optimum firing position. It's got a little bit of that looking to it, where he's crossing guns and all that.
Yeah,
and that's something that can't help but make you feel like a badass.
That's so true.
And, I mean, I love Nightwing. I've been crying out for a Nightwing movie for years.
Yeah, I mean, talk about movesets for Nightwing. Very, very acrobatic, less bulldozer that Batman kind of was. But you've also got this new like glider system for traversing around the environment now, which looks like you could almost like fly indefinitely, whereas Batman would lose altitude unless you did the soaring thing. But he was just gliding on his kind of on his wings, whereas this glider looks like it's completely like self-powered, and you could just be up there indefinitely until you decide to pick the right moment to jump down and get stuck into the enemies, which looks really, really cool as well. And we're seeing on screen here just now, like all the customization options. Now, I'm excited by this, but I'm also like a little bit reticent because games that have done it badly in the past, Marvel's Avengers, I'm looking at you, became so grindy and so like it never made any sense for me why there was a loot system within Avengers, because you're supposed to be Earth's mightiest heroes. And why are we getting like suit upgrades or rib cage or spinal upgrades for the Hulk? Do you know what I mean? It didn't make any sense. But I'm hoping that implementation here, to bring it back to Gotham Knights, is smarter and it's less about just going out smashing a bunch of dudes and coming back and getting the loot. It's not a looter shooter type of game. I hope it's still really tightly story focused, satisfying, but there is that kind of RPG system to it of smart upgrades that make sense rather than just going for the epic loot box at the end of a run or things like that, because that would be where this game really fails for me. But I don't think it will. They haven't really shown gameplay like that. So I'm still positive, Jamie. I'm still positive.
I am. It's a tricky one to balance because you have the problem you have is that if you introduce looting and all of that, it has to balance with the story and the lore for a start, because otherwise it can pull you out of a game. If, like you said, if Batman was running around looting stuff, well, why? Because he could literally buy Gotham. So what's the point? But these guys, you're looking at a Gotham that is very much, on the brink of disaster. Batman's gone. And from the blurb, it says Commissioner Gordon's gone as well. If you're talking about a city in chaos and these, the Bat family who have all of Bruce's training and they have the gear he's given them, but we don't know what their situation is, if they're on the run a bit, if they don't have access to the Batcave and all that. I mean, it's their base of operations. There's the Clock Tower, which obviously is a long-standing mythos in DC as well. Yep. So if it's a case of they're having to scrabble a bit to keep themselves ahead of the game, it can make sense. It could work. And the actual customization itself, I will like the look of it. Some of the suits and that you could build that we just saw there look fantastic. So that's nice.
Yeah.
Because it's nice to be able to. I love a bit of.
Well, especially, I was going to say, especially with the co-op aspect, like you'll want to bring in your Nightwing into my game. Whereas I'm going to be my Red Hood or my Batgirl or my Robin into your game, and it's going to be tailored to how you look and how you fight, how you've spent your skill points, etc. And it's going to be, hopefully, that's the real crux of the customization aspect of it, and that's what's really going to sell people on it. I mean, to segue a little bit here, one of the again, I talk in hyperboles a lot, and I apologize for that, but by far one of my favorite customization systems, I would say, is actually in the fighting game Injustice 2, because like narratively, if we take the customization as a mechanic and the way that was implemented into a narrative context. Now, and for anybody who doesn't know, Injustice 2 is a fighting game on all of the consoles and systems, but it deals with like mother boxes and the multiverse and all of the kind of the wider, far out kind of storylines of DC, and it's brilliant. It's like it deals with an evil Superman, and the story arc is just amazing in both the Injustice games. But what I loved about it from the gameplay aspect is because it's dealing with multiverses, you can have multiple Batman, we'll go Batman as opposed to Batmans, multiple Jokers, multiple Supermans, multiple Supergirls and Wonder Womans, and because of that, because it's dealing with multiverses, the fact that I would challenge you and we're both the same character, but you're your Batman, I'm my Batman, because we've customized them differently. Narratively, it makes sense because you're quote unquote like from a different multiverse, a different universe, where you're the Batman in that universe, in that Earth 1 or Earth 3 or whatever. So narratively, I think that is by far like the strongest implementation of character customization in a narrative context and bringing it all together. Now, obviously, I'm doubting very much that this is dealing with multiverse stuff. It might, that I'm speculating. Of course, I doubt very much it is, because it is dealing with the Court of Owls story arc from the comic books, which is amazing, by the way. So the fact that your Dick Grayson might, I mean, unless they say, okay, I'm playing as Dick Grayson, therefore you can't play as Dick Grayson or Nightwing or Robin, and then you have to pick another one. Like from a story context, that would kind of make sense. But then you're like, oh man, I haven't invested any XP, any customization into Red Hood, and now I'm being forced to play as Red Hood. That's interesting, and I don't know if they've really explained that just yet, or if you could double up the characters, because then the narrative aspect of the the game mechanics kind of fall down to say, well, why have we got two Red Hoods in this Gotham City? It doesn't make any sense other than it's a game and therefore you're taken out of the narrative experience a little bit because we've got two Red Hoods or two Nightwings or two Batgirls running around Gotham City, you know?
Yeah, it's always difficult in games with set characters when they force play. I think because ultimately, and no hate towards Robin and Batgirl, but everyone's going to want to play Nightwing and Red Hood. Those are the two guys that everyone's going to want to play. Like, I love Barbara Gordon and her story arc and her progression. Like I said, becoming Oracle and all of that, it's an incredibly deep story.
Yeah.
But Batgirl as a character, I'm less invested in. And Robin, I mean, no one likes Robin. And I hate saying that because I genuinely do. I do actually like Robin, but Robin, historically there's a lot of, Robin. And I think when you've got the option to play Nightwing or Red Hood, no one's going to be sat there going, no, I really think today I want to don the small pants and cape and be Robin. Like, I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
So if it's 2-player co-op, you're set. 4-player is going to be interesting if that does come to pass, because you will end up in a situation where people are going to be playing stuff they don't necessarily want to play, and in itself, it shouldn't be an issue. Realistically, if it's 4-player, I'll drop in with whoever and I'll play whatever character's going and I'll have a good time, because Batgirl and Robin still kick ass. Like, I don't actually dislike the characters, I just prefer Nightwing and Red Hood. But I guarantee, because this is the world of the internet, you will get complaints about the game which are based around the fact that, but my mates always get to pick first, I have to play Robin every time. Well,
yeah.
Learn to love Robin. Like, whenever I play Heroes of the Storm, I have to play Anduin because I play a healer and he's one of the best ones, and he looks like an idiot, but I still play him and he's surprisingly strong. So
yeah, fair play. I mean, it's true though, because no, there's always one character that nobody wants to play.
Yeah,
and it does kind of worry me is if they restrict it. I mean, I'm trying to think. It's been so long since I've played Marvel's Avengers. If they restricted it at first to say, okay, we can't have everybody playing as Thor or everybody playing as Iron Man, therefore you have to pick somebody else. I can't remember if you can do that now. I think they patched it in, but correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. But now it's just like, like it's a game. Just go with it. Everybody can play Spider-Man again, and that was another thing as well, because the characters were going to, like, some of the characters were going to be DLC drops, and other ones were locked behind different platform holders. That's a whole other issue in itself. I'm sure we'll get to. But as soon as Spider-Man drops, everybody's going to want to play Spider-Man. So if you can only have one Spider-Man, then that's going to be an issue. It's just going to piss people off. Mm-hmm. But I think they changed it, and I need to look further into whether Gotham Knights does restrict the choices or not. But anyway, the game is looking awesome regardless, I think. Oh yeah.
It looks gorgeous. Yeah. I love the Arkham games have a fan. Again, I keep going back to them because obviously they're the closest thing we've got to this. The Arkham games have this incredible, gritty beauty to them. Like Gotham's a shithole. It is that. I'm not saying that Ra's al Ghul was right and it should be razed to the ground, but you can see where he's coming from sometimes. So it's like Slough. So no hate.
Per Slough.
I don't know why Slough's my go-to when I need a place to torch. It's not fair. I've never even been there, but
I think it's the name lovely. Slough. It just doesn't sound like a very picturesque part of the country.
Yeah, but no, Gotham. Gotham's always in crisis, and it's a dangerous place. It's a dirty place. It's got this incredible architecture to it. These Gothic build. I love the art direction of Gotham and the various ways that it's been depicted through comics and film and TV and video games. Yeah, and the Arkham games have this incredible look, and it looks like they've definitely maintain some of that in Gotham Knights. It's got that feel to it still. It's got that look. My only concern with Gotham Knights thus far is who's making it. Because one, I would have loved to see it be Rocksteady, because I think they nailed it with all of the Arkham games.
Sure.
So, but that's like a wish. It's like it's not that WB Montreal will do a bad job. It's just that I'm pretty sure Rocksteady would have done an awesome job. So, but also Arkham Origins, I really enjoyed that game to a point, and it was the Deadshot fight, and then the game broke, robbed me of an achievement that I can never go back and get without replaying the entire game.
Yeah,
and they never fixed it, which didn't, to me, feel like a particularly good dedication to the player base. So I hope I'm wrong and that was an isolated incident, but Origins had its issues. So, which is a shame, because it was a good game at its core. I was really enjoying Origins. It was fun. It felt like an Arkham game. They'd done a good job.
It really was. It was a game that introduced the new detective mode, where you could play back and rewind. Like the scene reconstructions, which ultimately did make it into Arkham Knight as well. But yeah, there's a lot of firsts for that game, and
hell of a lot. And
it was obviously set during like the first kind of couple of years, very early into Batman's career in Gotham City. Nobody really knows if they can trust him just yet. The GCPD are like, who is this figure? And it really plays up the terrifying nature of the Batman, because they don't really know who this figure is just yet. And of course, there's Black Mask, and the bounties are going out on him, and a different take on the character of Bane, which was pretty cool as well. But the boss fights were brilliant in that game, really good. Yes, quick time heavy and stuff like that, but mashing the triangle button to do like 50 or 100 counters all in one quick succession as part of a set piece was actually really, really cool. And also, one thing that struck me is just how much chunkier the actual character of Batman was in this game. He looked like an absolute Frank Miller tank in that game. I mean, he's pretty burly in the Rocksteady games as well, but there's something just like extra thick, big thick boy about him in Arkham Origins, which I think that was a bit of a issue for some players as well. It's like, why is he so chunky? Why is he so thick? It's like, no, I like him. I like him that he's so chunky and so heavy set.
I was fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it just, like I said, whenever there's a game-breaking bug that never really gets addressed and to my knowledge, it never really got. It certainly didn't for the longest time, because I got to a point where I gave up looking to see if it had been fixed. So if it's come about and been fixed since, I mean, I'll always give a game another shot, because I am, to this day, an Aliens Colonial Marines apologist. I absolutely love that game. If you want some really fun 4-player co-op with your mates, that game ticks every box. And yes, every now and again you come around a corner and there's a xenomorph doing jazz hands frozen in the water. It's weird. But they fixed a lot of the bugs. They came back to the game, they fixed a hell of a lot of the bugs. It plays well, it looks good, it's fun. So Origins, I will, at some point when I get to it in the pile of shame, I'd love to go back and complete Origins properly.
I need to check it out as well, just to see if it has, because it's on backward compatibility now with the Xbox. So I wonder if anything got done to it. I mean, I would love games like that to get the FPS boost treatment or the enhancements that the backward compatibility program was doing. I know it's finished now, but Arkham Origins was so dismissed, kind of out of hand, because Rocksteady's not doing it, therefore it's rubbish for a lot of people. And I thought, you know what? It's more of what you expect from the Rocksteady, but it's not Rocksteady. So it's like Rocksteady light. But you know what? Like, the narrative pacing of that game, what they did with the boss fights, what they did with a lot of mechanics, was actually really good. And Troy Baker did a brilliant Joker, and who I can't remember who the actor was that did the Batman, but quite accomplished. It's that thing where they're clearly trying to channel Hamill and Conroy and not quite getting there. It's like, it's just a little bit off, and I understand where people were just like, oh no, like, you're not trying to be your own Joker, you're not trying to be your own Batman, you're trying to mirror like what we expect, and therefore it's not quite landing, and therefore it's a turn off. But I really enjoyed it. I did really enjoy it.
I did. I thoroughly enjoyed it until it broke on me. Like I said, it just frustrated me at that point, and I put it down. And I was waiting for a bug fix, which never happened. And then eventually, obviously, new games come out. There's only so much time you can leave a game sat.
Come out? Did new games keep coming out, Jamie?
Mate, honest to Christ, at the moment, my backlog is if it was physical media.
Yeah,
I would just be a hand coming out from a pile of game cases at this point and miming it. You'd hear a muffled voice.
Just like the Evil Dead game that just came out as well, Jamie. You know? The hand
that's on the list.
It's just came out. I don't know if it's on Game Pass, but okay, let's take a quick segue into games that we are playing right now, games that we want to be playing right now, and then we'll probably circle back to more Batman chat. What are you playing right now?
Okay, so it's more of the same for me mostly. I am back in WoW. I have gone back to my lady love, World of Warcraft.
Jamie, you had your 10-year chip of being sober for WoW. Come on.
I broke when everything went south with Blizzard, and obviously I'm not going to get into a political discourse here as it would be, but I stepped away from WoW. I had been falling out of love with the game for a while just because I was grinding stuff constantly. There wasn't enough new content. I had stopped Mythic raiding, which is the real end game for me. And I love Mythic raiding. It is tense and stressful, and you get unhappy. But when you finally beat that boss, the rush is just I don't think there's a drug on this planet that compares to it. So I'm like, okay. But I had stopped Mythic raiding because I didn't have the time to dedicate to the amount of stuff you have to do to keep cutting edge. I had to grind one dungeon for months to get a pair of bracers so that my character was viable. And it gets a bit stupid. So I was kind of just pottering about in WoW, doing a bit of rep grinding, farming mounts, not doing a hell of a lot. And then when everything went south at Blizzard, I was like, I'm done. I'm stepping away, at least for now, because I'm not happy with the way things are being, the way they were treating people, all of that. It was awful. And then, obviously, Microsoft announced that they're buying it, and there's hope on the horizon, and things start to seem to get better. And there's also the side note that right now, I've got various things going on in my life. Having a large fictional world to escape into that I can lose myself in, very important to me at this moment in my life. So, with hope on the horizon and the love I have for the 10 plus years I've put into WoW, at this point, I went back. And I am currently... So, Alan is attempting this ridiculous endeavor. He's going to complete WoW. He has decided he's going to complete all the things, which is an add-on that shows you everything in the game you need to do. And for some ungodly reason, because I seem to do this, I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. So I've now got a full array of every character, class, and race combo on Alliance on one server and Horde on another server, and I'm leveling stuff, and I'm not as far down the line as he is. But
okay.
So
we're gonna have to do a little show within a show drop-in segment on the podcast now, Jamie, to keep us updated on the progress of this, like a little report, diary kind of thing. Yeah.
It will weekly be me sat there going, literally head in my hands just going, I've been farming the Direhorn mounts for days. I finally got my second Direhorn mount to drop the other day after. They're these mounts that drop from a certain enemy that only spawns in certain locations, and they've got like an hour timer, and I'm on a busy server. So usually I fly in, see one, and it gets killed. And the other day, I was on at about 3 o'clock in the morning, because, sleep's whatever. And so I flew in, and it was just sat there, and I killed it, and it dropped the damn mount. And I was like, oh, thank fuck. So I got one more left to get. But, yeah, so a lot of my time's been taken up with WoW, but I have actually started playing a new game. I finally picked one up off the pile of shame and started it with some friends. I am playing Escape from... Well, it's not new. I am playing Escape from Tarkov.
Oh, I think you mentioned that actually on the last one. Yeah, Escape from Tarkov. I've heard good things about this as well. I don't know if it'll ever come to console or if it is already, but it's that kind of...
PC only, I think.
I think it is PC only. It's that kind of survival, like Eastern European radioactive zone kind of like world universe, like Metro, Escape from Tarkov, Stalker, that kind of like niche of gaming, which looks so cool. It's
intense. Yeah. It's really intense.
Is it competitive, or is it just like surviving against the AI, or surviving against other players?
It's both. You get scavs, which right, and scav raiders who are the AI. they will like kind of leave you alone if you avoid them. There's all sorts of little mini rules that I'm still learning. So like, I spot a guy across the way who's not on my squad. I'm shooting him in the head.
Sure.
And I'm going to go take his stuff.
That's just
found out I shouldn't
rules.
do that. Yeah, but you shouldn't do
why
that.
not?
If it's
Why
a
not?
scav, you kill a scav unprovoked, you get minus scav rep. It makes them more likely to attack you and all this sort of stuff down the line. So you have to wait until they see you and attack you. Okay. I'm not saying I haven't occasionally popped up like, hello, so they would fire the first shot so I could then kill them and take their stuff.
You're baiting them.
Yeah, a little bit, but you get a character which is your PMC, and you can build his gear. You can buy stuff from traders, you can loot it from raids, you can put together guns. It's got a massively complex like in-game economy and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You also get a scav character which resets every 20 minutes. The lower your scav rep goes, the longer it takes your scav to reset. And your scav is just a drop-in character that you can go in and try and get some loot with. So yeah, it's really good fun. I'm playing with a couple of my friends who are pretty shit hot at it and know what they're doing. And I am definitely a dragging force on the team at the moment, but we're enjoying it and I'm learning, so it's fine.
That's cool.
But yeah, that's my two mains, and then I'm still working on my ranking in Valorant. So a couple of shooters, and wow, that's about my entire gaming life at the moment. What are you playing?
Awesome. Oh, I am completely obsessed with a game that's on the PlayStation 5 called Returnal. Mm-hmm. And if you know anything about this, it is a science fiction roguelike where it's live, die, repeat kind of Edge of Tomorrow type of thing. The movies are referencing there. And it's set against the backdrop of something that looks and sounds a lot like Prometheus or Alien or science fiction movies like that. Solaris, Sphere, those kind of sci-fi movies, where each little bit of narrative drop happens whether you find your corpse in the environment from your previous run or from like quote unquote runs that have happened before you started playing the game but existed in the world kind of thing. Scout logs and everything, all the narrative beats are like happening there, and every time you die you get these kind of cinematic quick cuts of like flashes of like memories or something, and you have to decipher it and work out what the hell is going on, and it's just so weird. And the gameplay is so addictive because it's by Housemarque, who are the goats of twin stick shooters. In my opinion, they do absolutely the best. They understand arcade gaming. That's like very quick. If you want a game that is jumping in for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it will grab you and it will give you a great time for that. Or if you want to invest like multiple hours, you've got that same gameplay cadence and loop, just firing all the time. And they've carried that learning over into Returnal for the first time, which is obviously not a twin stick shooter, it's a third person shooter. But it's just this ballet of bullet hell, roguelike, science fiction horror, weirdness, and I'm so addicted to it right now. And we're going to be talking about this actually on our future show, which is all about it's going to sound negative, but it's not. Like, gaming addiction is going to be the theme of the show, but it's addiction in a good way. Like, what makes a game addictive? And we're going to be diving into that specifically on a future show. But it is such an addictive little game because it looks amazing. It's built from the ground up for the PlayStation 5, so it looks and sounds incredible, but it's got that loop of gameplay, which is so much fun. And then you get a little bit further forward, and then you die, and then you reset, and you go back again, just like a proper roguelike. But it just feels so fresh and different, unlike any other roguelike I've really played before. Different enough to Hades, but still of that caliber, but with like a crazy budget because it's the third person rather than an isometric kind of roguelike kind of viewpoint. But it's just so good, Jamie. It's so much fun to watch as well. It's like the design of everything. Like when you come across enemies or specifically the bosses, the bullet hell aspect really comes to the fore in the bosses because their movesets, the different phases of the lives that they have to go through to vanquish them have different movesets in the traditional, the rule of three, the very old school boss fight kind of a template. But each one is it's a new like particle effects extravaganza, like 4th of July fireworks going off for the bullet hell. But it is so pretty. It's like some kind of pollen, like floral arrangement that's just going to blast it out in your direction of this light show. And it's hypnotic and beautiful and scary, but so much fun. So that's got all of my attention right now. But I'm also jumping between that, doing a little bit of Hades now and again because the runs are even faster and even shorter than that. So that's great to pick up, do a couple of runs, and then quit the game and keep it going. I love that right now with the way things are going with our lives and everything. I love the quick hit kind of games.
Yeah.
I'm still working my way through Halo Infinite. I know it's a touchy subject for your good self, especially because campaign co-op has been delayed again out to August now, which is a whole other conversation in itself. I still don't know what's going on there. Such a shame.
Happening.
I know. Such a damn shame. But I'm really enjoying that because the core gameplay is so good. And I've actually gone back to play some older games now that the Xbox Series consoles and the PlayStation 5 can give them a major boost to their performance. So this is going to sound funny, but I'm actually playing a game called The Last Guardian. I just started that up again because I played it originally on the PS4. Now this is from the original Japanese development team that did the OG Shadow of the Colossus, which is such a beautiful game. So this was their follow-up, which was in development for forever. Nobody thought it was ever going to make it. And it's about this little boy who befriends this ginormous griffin-like bird dog creature, bird dog creature, and called Trico. And I loved it, but the performance was shocking on PlayStation 4 and the Pro. But apparently, if you have the disc version, which I went out and bought because I originally had the digital version. This is so funny to think about, but if you buy the disc version and don't update it, the original disc version had an unlocked frame rate, and it ran at like 1800p, which is incredible resolution. But the game could not, on the PS4, could not run it at all. So they had to very quickly patch in a 30 FPS frame rate cap and a resolution cap. But if you've got that disc, you can chuck it in your PS5, don't let it update, and just run version 1.0 from the disc, and it runs at 1800p, 60 frames per second. And it looks and runs amazingly well. So I'm playing this again, and it's like a brand new game because it's of how smooth it is and how sharp the resolution is from this disc. It's wild. It's such a weird hack. Shout out to Digital Foundry who covered it at the time, and I thought I need to do this. So I did, and it works, and it's crazy because one of the biggest issues with the game at the time is the input latency felt horrible. It felt so sluggish because of the nature of the animation and the nature of the bad frame rate and everything. It felt like you were turning the thumbstick to turn your character, but then the time he would turn, you've turned the thumbstick too far, and it's that kind of thing where it's not responsive enough, and then it's over responsive because your input latency is so huge. Now there is still that, but it's not nearly as noticeable because you're playing at 60 frames per second now, and it feels so much tighter and smoother that I just can't wait to play the rest of the game now because it's given it a whole new lease of life, and it's such a beautiful story as well. And the fact that the little boy is cell shaded, but the whole world and Trico, this kind of mythical creature beast that you befriend, is like photorealistic. It's like the two styles married together is so beautiful. And I recommend it to anybody, especially if you can hunt down a super cheap copy on disc of the PlayStation 4, get it in your PS5, don't update it, play it, love it, and then leave a comment of how much you cried over the journey of Trico and the little boy. So that's what I'm playing now.
I remember seeing like screenshots and clips from when it came out, and it looked very. There was something very Ghibli about it.
Sure.
The notions more than the actual art style, obviously, but it looked gorgeous. It was something that I wanted to play, but I think it was PlayStation exclusive, wasn't it? So it was one that sort of slipped me by. PS exclusives tend to sort of pop up on my radar briefly, and then when I realise I can't play them, I sort of let them go, and I try not to, because otherwise I'd be sat there annoyed and spending money I don't have on consoles that I'll only play once every 6 months, which is I'm trying to avoid doing. But the look of it just looked fantastic. So that's good that there's a little workaround now to get it.
It's funny because it was the same with the disc version of Assassin's Creed Unity on the Xbox at the time. So if you ran that without any patches or anything like that, it ran unlocked. I mean, it's hilarious to think that of how much developers were really pushing the hardware when those games came out at the beginning of the life cycle of the PS4 and the Xbox One. The hardware just couldn't do it. It couldn't cope with. I mean, these were sub HD at the time as well, apart from The Last Guardian, right enough. But like Assassin's Creed Unity wasn't 1080p; it was like 900p running unlocked, and it couldn't handle it, so they had to very quickly patch in a 30 FPS cap. Now it comes under the FPS boost. It does. It comes under the FPS boost, so you can patch it and run it at 60 frames per second, which is glorious. But originally, you'd have to do the same hack with that of running it unpatched from a disc version and to get the unlocked frame rate. And because of the sheer brute force of the Series X, it would allow it to run at a constant 60 frames per second. And it felt incredible. Because if you imagine those early Assassin's Creed games were far more about the fluidity of movement and realistic movement, so therefore the input latency felt quite high because they were running at 30 frames per second or with drops occasionally as well, to below that. But when you take that original kind of move set and controls and bump up to 60, it feels so good. And you think, man, the animation has really it's really gone backwards for modern Assassin's Creed games. As good as they are, as good as Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla are, playing Unity at 60 frames per second, you can see that this really was a next generation of Assassin's Creed style game. You've got the entire city of Paris, practically one-to-one scale. It's so densely populated and detailed. Yeah. You're thinking, man, I would give anything to go back to this, but then with modern techniques running at 60 frames per second, properly about the assassinations rather than these big open world RPGs, which are great, but let's get realistic here. They're not Assassin's Creed games, not really. Back to the core of what an Assassin's Creed game was, and FPS boost has now allowed that game to get fully patched up, fully fixed, but also run at 60 frames per second, and it's great. I mean, PC gamers were probably like rubbing their hands together laughing because all they have to do is buy a new graphics card and they can get an FPS boost or a resolution boost or something, right? They've been doing that for decades. It's fine. Wow. But now console gamers can do that as well with initiatives like backward compatibility and FPS boost or disc hacking, which is such a weird thing. But I don't think Last Guardian is ever going to get an official 4K 60 patch, which would have been glorious, but it's too far down now. It's been too long. I don't think it's ever going to happen. But there is a way. Viewers and listeners, there is a way to get it, and it's wonderful to do it.
I mean, never say never. There's always the. I'm constantly surprised by the games that suddenly, like, I hear it's like, that's getting a remaster. Like, who the hell ever played that? Like it pops up all the time. I'm waiting for the day when someone somehow acquires the rights, the legal battle ends, and they announce a fucking 2 human port.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
He's going to be insufferable. No, well, there must be a market for it. Yeah, you've bought like 13. I don't know how many copies of that game that he has locked in a vault under Mount Rushmore, but
I don't.
Too human. Nah.
I'm still waiting for the sofa playthrough of. I'll play it, and Alan can be on the sofa yammering in my ear about the game as we do the video series. You know, like a retro replay with Nolan North. Let's just rip that format off and do it with Al and me and you on the 2 Human show.
We'll do it. I'm gonna need a very good bottle of whiskey to make it through that.
It. We'll call it Too Uncomfortable. The series.
Too bad. So sad. It just, yeah. Yeah, no. But games do. I mean, it is surprising to me constantly the games that they reach back into yesteryear and pull stuff forward, and it takes me by surprise, which obviously means there's a market. They also use it, let's be fair, they use it to test the market. I think we talked about this before.
100%.
They definitely say, we'll port this, we'll give it a wee shine, and if people like it, then we'll make a new one, which is great, makes perfect sense. And it's good for us as gamers because it's nice to have these games come back. I mean, there are some games from which there was no escape, like Skyrim, and there are some games that we think longingly of and just really can't play without an awful lot of arseache. So it's nice that these things are there. I mean, I picked up two games that I grabbed, which I played to death back in the day, and I'm very excited to finally sit down and do when I find the time, is Baldur's Gate. I love the Baldur's Gate
classics.
games.
Classics.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I've got... No, which way? Somewhere behind me, I've got Minsk and Boo in Funko form because I had to. I still will yell, "Go for the eyes, Boo!" in the middle of raids in WoW, which makes no sense because I don't have Boo and no one's going for any eyes. But it's a hell of a game series. I haven't played 3 at all yet. I will pick that up eventually, but I want to run through the first 2 again, refresh my memory on how they felt.
Is 3 the one that's still in development by the Divinity Original Sin team? Is that Baldur's Gate 3?
Actually, it might. Yeah, I thought it got released, but I could be wrong on that front. Actually,
I think it's early access or something, or it's like it's still kind of ongoing, but you get early access to it. I think
I saw an email. It could have been, or I might have been signing up for a beta saying that. So many. That's the other thing as well. Is like the amount of games early access, beta. I mean,
yeah.
Tarkov is technically in beta. It's been out for
really.
It's been out for years, and it's still classed as in beta.
Right. Okay.
There's another game that I played, and it completely escapes me. But that is still in beta to this day, and it's been around for 4 years. They've never actually released it officially. Made an awful lot of money selling it, but they've never released it officially. And I'm always curious as to what the purpose of that is. I think Tarkov, has probably got it down as much as they're getting it down at this point. All they need to do is figure out a way to stop the hackers, because they are prevalent in that game, I am told.
True.
We had a moment of panic yesterday playing because Mako, one of my buddies, saw a blur shoot across in front of his screen. And I was like, well, what have we got? Ghosts? He's like, no, hackers. He said, because they will literally blur about the map, find people, they can see your inventory, and they will drop you out of nowhere and take your stuff.
Oh, man.
He said there was a hack at one point where you would leave a raid with a bag full of items, and when you got back to your hideout, you didn't have any of it, because they'd just taken it as you left. So it's bad. And I hate that. Nothing in gaming angers me more than hackers. It's a really... And I'm not talking about guys who single player stuff, and it gets hacked and modded so people can have a laugh with it. And obviously the official mod community is a wonderful thing. And a lot of those guys in the mod community came out of hacking old games back. We used to do it. The classic example for me was always Daggerfall. We discovered that in Daggerfall, when you load up the game and you answer the initial questions, it pulls data from these text files called BIOC files. And we went in and edited them, played around, worked out what the codes were, and then we were starting each game with a full set of Daedric armor, every weapon in the game, about 5 billion gold. But the problem was, you were so over encumbered, you couldn't walk. So we changed all the strength settings. We got to a point where if you jumped, you would go so high that you would die on impact. So we had to tweak that one back down. But that was all single player, done for our own enjoyment, and wasn't breaking anyone's
you're
experience.
not cheating. It's not an online competitive environment where you're just being an asshole to ruin the enjoyment of other players. This is kind of relevant, but it's not really to do with modding or hacking or anything. So I really, really like the Red Dead Redemption games. Right? They're brilliant. They're wonderfully crafted and made. But sometimes I just want to activate the cheat codes and have unlimited Deadeye meter counters like that. But the problem is the game won't allow you to activate the cheat codes without saying, okay, you can activate these cheat codes, but then you can't save any of your progress. So if you, from whatever moment you activate the cheat code, anything you do after that will not be saved. And I think, come on, it's a single player game.
Yeah.
What does it matter if I want to just like completely annihilate anybody that comes up to me, because I can activate Deadeye mode. I have unlimited usage for it. And I can just take everybody out. And I could just rampage around the world like that, because it's a single player game. It's not online. And I just think that's a really negative way to treat your players, to say, if I just want to have fun and make my way through the game using these cheat codes, well, why the hell not? I'm not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
And I think there should be, like, for single player games, you should be allowed to do that. And you could probably do it on PC, to be fair. I should probably just bite the bullet and invest in PC gaming, Jamie. The more friends that keep saying to me, I've just got a gaming PC and you need to get on board this train and come with us on this bullet train of ray tracing speed. And I'm just left in my my hamster pedaling console space.
The thing is, I am a console lover. I've got my Xbox. I adore my Xbox.
Yeah.
The reason I built a new machine towards the start of lockdown, and this was my first gaming PC I built in years, and it wasn't just built as a gaming PC. It was built because I needed a better PC. I had a laptop that I was working on, and I was taking on work, trying to take on web design bits and pieces like that. I was trying to take all that on. I needed a decent machine. Yeah. So I priced up some, and I looked at them and I thought, I could put a little bit more money into it, and I could build myself a gaming rig, which will do all of that I need to do, but also I can play all these games that I haven't been able to play, and I can go back to WoW. At the time, that was the first time I went back to WoW for a while.
And it's a business expense, so you can get a tax rebate, and you can expense it to your tax return.
I might have. There may have been, that helps.
Because it's for work. Of course, it'll pay for itself.
That's the thing. I'm sat in front of this thing all day, every day, and a lot of the time what I'm doing is working on one monitor while running on the other monitor while I'm waiting for mouse to spawn. But hey, I work for myself, so it's my time I'm wasting.
Exactly. But flexible working hours, Jamie, that's what we aspire to have.
Exactly, and the way I look at it is, if I end up working on someone's website from 4 till 6 in the morning, which I quite regularly do, then I'm entitled to take a 2-hour lunch break during the day so I can go and run Black Temple. But this thing is... I love my machine. I need a new graphics card, and of course you can't get them because Bitcoin miners, and that is a side rant because I could go on about them for an hour. But I do love PC gaming. I started out as a PC gamer. That was my birthplace of video game. I started out with an Amiga. That was my first real foray into gaming. I had the Amiga 500 Plus and fell in love with it. And then my dad built me a PC. And I had a really nice setup. We also networked the entire house. It was fantastic. We had a server downstairs in my dad's study. Wow. We had an MP3 library that could play for about 48 hours without ever repeating a song. All of them obtained completely legally.
Absolutely. I would expect nothing less.
Not back in the day. But these days I have Spotify and I pay for it, so But we had this fantastic setup, and we used to sit and play. We played Half-Life Deathmatch together. We played Quake Co-op, and we played all this all these network games. Had great fun, and then come summer holidays, my mates would bring their entire desktop rigs over to my house. We set up 4 desktop rigs in my bedroom, and nearly died of heat stroke from the amount of temperature being put out by our machines.
LAN parties ridiculous. Back in the day. Oh my god,
it was great. And then obviously I went to console for years, because console. One thing I love about console is if you buy an Xbox and you go out and buy an Xbox game, your Xbox will run that Xbox game. I have to sit here when a game comes out and think, do I have the specs for it? Do I need to upgrade? It's a bit of a double-edged sword.
Sure.
Infinitely upgradable to a point. So not infinitely, so bad choice of words, but very upgradable, a lot of flexibility there. Yeah. But with a console, you're set. You can buy and go. And there are some games as well which are so built for console and built for a controller particularly, because I feel weird playing a PC with a controller. Don't know why, I just do. I played Super Meat Boy on Steam with a keyboard. Bad idea.
Whoa.
That's when you get a controller.
I was going to say, does it depend on the game? Is it, I can understand Twitch games, first-person shooters make sense. That has to be a mouse and keyboard. But something like a third-person game, would you to me, I can't quite grasp like a mouse and keyboard for that kind of thing, where that would make more sense to be a third like a controller based game, but maybe third person is totally the way to go for PC gaming. I don't know.
It's a bit of a toss-up. For me, the main reason that I don't have a controller set up at the moment for my PC is because I'm too lazy to go and do it. Because I usually, by the time I actually fire up a game where I think to myself, this would be better with a controller, I'm like, I'll have to go find one.
Yeah.
So I don't want to use the one that's actually hooked up to my Xbox, because then I've got to take that back through there every time I go into the lounge, or the kids are in there playing it when they're over, and I'm sat here. I was like, I'll have to dig out one of my other controllers. Fuck, I'll just play it with keyboard for now and see how it goes. And then I adjust, and then I'm okay.
Yeah, okay.
But some games are definitely, they don't play as smoothly unless you've got a controller. And I love my Xbox controller. I love it. It's a beautiful peripheral. I've loved all the Xbox controllers. I even loved the Duke, even though I needed to operate it with both my hands and feet, and I could have lived in it for a time if I needed to.
You know, I've got one of the reissues of the Duke. It's still in its box, sitting down there, but it works. It works on my Xbox, and this is the coolest thing, right? So the guide button is one of the original big circles of back in the day. It was just a bit of, I guess, paper beneath the plexiglass.
Yeah.
But see, when you press that guide button, it has the OG startup animation of the console within the little LED guide roundel. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I love shit like that. It's entirely pointless. You don't need it. It's just fun. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I said that to someone the other day. Someone was talking about time waster. I said gaming is pointless. And now that is a thing that I could easily earn hate for. But by its definition, there is no purpose to it. It's something purely done for enjoyment. There is no, unless you're a pro gamer or you're competing in tournaments for money, there is no purpose to what we do when we sit down in front of the PC or the Xbox or Mac or whatever to game. It's pointless in that respect. And that's why I think it gets a bit of hate online. Like people are like, "Oh, you're wasting time playing video games." I was like, "Have you ever read a book?" Yes, it didn't serve you any purpose to read that novel.
I was going to say, it's like graphic novels, any kind of literature, watching a movie. It's all pointless. It's all pointless apart from the self gratification that you get from it. What do you take from it? That's where you get meaning from it, and that could be anything, any hobby. I'm going to go play golf, or I'm going to go ride my motorbike for away for the day. And people will say, "Well, you just ride your motorbike, and you're just literally wasting fuel, and that's how you've chosen to spend your day." It's like, yeah, but I love to ride my motorbike. It's like a release of some kind. It's the endorphins you get from doing something that you enjoy, and that is the same can be absolutely anything, whether it be video games, whether it be the written word to read a great novel, listening to music. Just lying on the sofa listening to music is completely pointless. But you know what? The soul needs food. God damn it!
Yep.
Wherever it comes from, we got to feed it.
That's it, and that's always been my argument. It's like it's pointless when you try and find some grander purpose in it. But the enjoyment that I get out of gaming, and especially like I can have a bad, and I've never been shy about the fact, I have my mental health issues, I have a lot of bad days, and I can have a truly awful day and sit down and fire up. Warcraft's a really good one for me. I'll fire up Warcraft, I'll put some music on in the background, and I'll load in, I'll portal myself to Orgrimmar, I'll take off to fly across. I can turn into a goddamn dragon in that game. I have the Vial of Sands, or I have the Sandstone Drake mount. I can not only turn into a dragon, but one of my friends can ride on my back and I can take them on an adventure.
There you go.
And as I'm soaring across the top of this landscape, and Warcraft is a beautiful game as well. It looks glorious. It doesn't need. There's been calls over the years for it to get, like, for the graphics to get tighter and it to be more. They want more detail in the terrain and stuff.
Okay.
It's got enough. It's gorgeous as it is. Like, it doesn't. Not every game needs to be photorealistic, and Warcraft's got a kind of timeless. It looks a little old in places now. Some of the mount models the drakes, as my mate Ed always says, the drakes look derpy as hell, and they do. The drakes have this like glazed over look on their face.
Okay.
They need a bit of a change. they look like, most of them you have to beat something to get them out to drop. They look like they've been beaten, so you can ride them. Like, they definitely look like they've taken a few punches to the face. But awesome, all these mounts. There's 791 mounts, I think, in WoW.
Wow.
And I go around collecting them. And I've got a bunch. I've got 200 on. And I can, like I said, I can turn into a dragon and fly across. Or I can go underwater and I can ride a seahorse. And I can just go... I used to... My first ever server in WoW was an RP server. And I wasn't particularly into RP, but RP servers are quiet. So it was a good one to learn on and a good one to go for mounts. And I used to occasionally go into the pub in Goldshire, which also happens to be the centre of ERP for that server, which I didn't know the first time I walked in there. And it's like, I could feel myself sticking to the floor, even though I wasn't really there. So it's a lot of fun. But you go in there, and there was a guy who used to sit in the corner on a chair. He was always in this chair, just sat there, supping a beer. Not an NPC, a player character.
That's interesting,
and
okay.
Me and my friend Ed would go in there, we would be sat there. At the end of the night, after we'd done our quests and dungeons and stuff for the night, we would log off at the pub. So we would go and have a pint at the end of the night. That was the idea. It was great fun. And we started telling stories to the other people in the pub about why this guy sat in the chair. Right. So we'd walk in, and I would talk to a guy and go, see that's Radgar. They're like, right. I said, do you know why he sits on that chair? I said, no. I said, rumour has it there's an ancient portal to hell under that chair, and only his mighty buttocks can contain the evil within. And then I would turn and nod at him and buy him a drink, and he would just tip his glass and carry on drinking. Brilliant. And I whispered him one day in chat, and I was like, I hope you realise I'm not taking the piss out of you. I just think it's great that you're always here. And he was like, oh mate, I fucking love it. And he was having a whale of a time. And he said he was basically, that was his character for doing nothing on. And he would just sit there and see what was going on.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
That's what I love with gaming, and I love the amount of different worlds that we can lose ourselves in, and the amount of stuff that we can... there's so much... And yes, my pile of shame grows ever larger, and will grow larger again when Gotham Knights releases. But
speaking of, let's do a quick wrap up then. So Gotham Knights comes out on, I believe it's October 25th. Look out for more trailers dropping, more news dropping. I'm sure we're going to be covering it quite extensively as well. I'm sure there'll be tons of stuff coming out around the kind of the E3 time, of all the press conferences and the showcase videos that are getting lined up and rumored about already. I'm really looking forward to it. Jamie, please tell us we're gonna be Robin. I'll be your Batgirl to your Nightwing any day. But it has to happen.
That's the best offer I've had in a long time. I'll need to dig out my suit. No, I definitely intend to pick it up. I'm definitely down for it. I don't know what the cross-platform's like on it. I haven't actually seen anything. I scanned.
I would imagine, like, Xbox and PC tends to have kind of standardized that now with those releases.
Yeah.
So I probably will not be cross-play for PS5, but who knows, right? They could just drop that and say, hey, we're actually doing it. We're actually properly doing it. Kind of like what Outriders did. Outriders still to this day has the best cross-play system I think I've ever seen, because it's absolutely everything. You could probably cross-play that on your fridge, like at the same time as playing Doom 3 on your fridge as well. But in terms of Gotham Knights, I would hope it's at least cross-play between Xbox and PC. Otherwise,
I would imagine
the argument for not getting a gaming PC is getting smaller and smaller, and I'm not there yet. And please don't make me. I can't justify it just yet. But who knows? Maybe one day.
Me and Al will come across one weekend, and we'll all get ridiculously drunk and build one. It'll be great. You'll end up with it'll be like that Simpsons episode. It'll be "'Tis a fine bar in English, but 'tis no pool." It won't even be a PC. There'll be a.
I'll tell Alan his only build brief is, can it run 2 human at like 120 frames per second, and that's the brief.
Yeah. My watch could run 2 human at 120 FPS. That's not a sticking point. But no, I'm definitely picking it up. I know it's coming. It's coming to PS5. It's coming to Xbox, and it's coming to PC.
Yeah. Oh, they just actually dropped the news that they've dumped the previous gen versions, so it's no longer coming to Xbox and it's no longer coming to PS4, which I think is the right decision. It's deeply unfortunate for those who cannot still get hold of a console, the new consoles, I should say, to be able to play this game. And they were looking forward to playing it on the PS4 or their Xbox One consoles. So that does suck, but at the same time, we don't want another Cyberpunk. Nobody wants that. No publisher wants that. No developer wants that. So probably the smarter move in the long run, for sure. Yeah. Anyway.
It's difficult. There comes a point where you just have to say, we're done. And as much as it sucks personally and individually for people, and I completely... Because, I'm still on the old Xbox, so I couldn't play this on Xbox, which is a shame, because it would be good for console, and it'd be good for the controller, but...
Yeah.
Eventually you have to say no more, don't you? Like, there's no...
Cool. So let's wrap it there, Jamie. Friends, listeners, viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to this rambling, masterful episode of the Weekend Catch-Up Club podcast, episode 75. We'll be back again in another week, and that episode is going to be all about addictive games. What makes them addictive? Why are they addictive? Why are we addicted to them? And what specifically games are we addicted to? We're going to be talking about the whole gamut, and we're going to be talking about specific games, mechanics, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be a lot of fun chatting about that. But for now, take care, happy gaming, and have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.